Okay, folks, so I want just to record this video to help you out if you're starting an Amazon FBA, really gear you towards what would be the best product for you to start with. Because I know there's so much different advice out there, and you're probably looking at like, should I be selling this really common item or should I be selling something a little bit more obscure? And people just, get really confused with it. So I just want to give you my penny's worth, my 1 penny, whatever it is, what it's worth, right? Now, I started on Amazon selling this. I don't know, can you see that, guys? It's like yeah, there's a good picture of it, right? That's a dog whistle. Now, that was my very first product. And I'd love to say I aimed for a small, lightweight item, but I didn't. I just followed my research methodology that I was operating at the time. And I uncovered this product and the numbers worked. And I said, you know what? Let's go for it. Right. Now, a lot of you guys are probably thinking this, I want to do a small item as well. That's kind of, it's easier. Let's go for it. And you're right. Like for a first product, this was ideal, like small, which means that I could fit a lot in a box. Lightweight, which meant that, again, small and lightweight, which meant that I could air freight it in, which means I got it really, really quick. And then this was just really inexpensive. Like there's not a big cost to this item. Like it was $1.10 per unit. But at the same time, because of all that, the item, and again, another bonus was like, because again, it was really lightweight, I could very quickly send units to the different markets. Like there was no issue with doing any of that. But because it was lightweight and small and affordable and everything else, the profit margins for me was, tight. Certainly now things have got tighter. Like when I started back in 2016, there was more scope for success with some of these smaller light items. Whereas now I find that space is just a little bit more saturated. Okay. So I was able to bring it in. I was able to put it for sale. And I think ultimately I was making about £4 profit, which actually is pretty good. And this sold really well for me for about 2 years. I sold over £70,000 that I could track in terms of turnover. I went back to look at this for a presentation I was doing, and Amazon won't let me go back any further. So that's the data I got, right? But if I went into that market now, I wouldn't, like, it'd be so competitive. It just wouldn't be worth it. My advantage was I was selling 2 instead of 1 that everyone else was selling. Whereas now people are selling 4 for the same price. And there's so many different offers. It just wouldn't be something I'd be looking to do, right? And again, this product here, it wasn't always getting the best quality in terms of reviews. Like people were expecting a really high quality whistle, whereas this, like, it wasn't ultrasonic. There was some issues that way. And maybe the reason I got on so well with it was because the price was so low, like £7.99. It's not a lot of money. People aren't too worried if it just doesn't perform to that's this really high expectation. But anyway, so that was my product, right? And a lot of people think, oh, I'm going to look for a small light item like that when I start out. The problem is that you and everyone else is looking for that, right? And as I said, the returns just aren't really there. Like if you think about it, if you're making say £2 or £3 profit and then PPC increases or search terms get a little bit more expensive, or you need to decrease your price, suddenly your profit it's completely gone, right? Whereas if you change your tack a little bit and you start looking for products that have good demand, but are bigger. So something that perhaps, is selling really well and there's a few good offers on the market, but it's all FBM. Maybe you should come in and do FBA. Yeah, the item could be big, right? Let's say it could be 1.2 meters, right? Really big package. As long as your numbers work out, I would think as a beginner or as any Amazon seller, it's actually a better bet because the margin's likely going to be much bigger, which means that if PPC increases or if you want to be a bit more aggressive on pricing or whatever, you can do that and your product can absorb that and ultimately you're making more money. So the other benefit, sorry, I just want to touch on this. The other benefit of going for a little bit more expensive in terms of an item is that generally you have less competition. Okay. And that means that you don't have to be on your toes as much. I don't mean like taking things easy and not doing a good job. No, definitely do a good job. Definitely do a good listing, do creative, good copy, good item, do all that. But there's not as many people, especially beginners, jumping in saying, I'm going to sell this expensive item. They're going to go for the smaller, lighter item like this, right? I had a lot more competitors in this market than I have had in a lot of the other items I've launched since, because they're bigger. And people just think, that's just too awkward. So definitely go for that. And like, the benefit is, a big item is almost as easy to ship as a small item. Yes, it probably wouldn't pay you to ship it via air, but you can use Amazon Global Logistics to ship that item from China to the UK or to the US or to Australia, or to wherever you want to sell it. And for you, because you're not physically lifting the item, it actually makes no difference. Now, one thing to bear in mind for bigger items, just to watch out on, is that ultimately, if the item doesn't sell or you don't do your research right and you're stuck with it, like, Amazon will charge you quite a lot in storage fees. Generally after 3 months, that's when they start to kick in. So bear that in mind. So I'd always try and get a smaller MOQ for that initial order. Likewise, a bigger item will probably cost you a little bit more in terms of an investment. So you're going to spend more to get the item in ultimately. Again, when you're selling that bigger item, generally at a higher price, people would expect higher quality, because as I said to you, like £7.99, if it doesn't work, people are like, whatever, some might return it, but it's fine. Whereas a more expensive item, say 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 quid, people are like, okay, that's not working right, I'm going to return that. So I think item quality is just a little bit more important, and people, their expectations are a little bit higher. And that's not to say if you're doing a smaller item that you shouldn't concentrate on quality. You definitely should, and it'll make your life so much easier. But for a more expensive item, the customer expects higher quality just built in. And so if there's a problem with it, you're going to hear more about it. I think that's what's key. So as a beginner, my advice, my 2 cents, is aim for the larger items, aim for items that are FBM, and check your numbers. And if your numbers work and it's a larger item, test it, get it in, and you'll find there's probably less competition for you in that market, and you're able to just sell that item with a nicer profit for ever and ever and ever, for just ongoing. Whereas smaller items, you're just going to find it a bit more competitive. You're not able to absorb any sort of changes in pricing, and you don't make as much money, so you need to sell a lot more units, and it's just potentially a lot more headaches. So my advice, a little bit bigger item works well. Guys, if you're interested in learning this, want to work with me, go up to my bio there. There's ways we can do that. If you enjoyed this, give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and any questions, leave them down below in the comments. I'm happy to help you out. All right. Talk to you soon, folks.